Hi everyone, welcome back to another edition of Economics with Mr. Ko. I actually changed my surname already, but for longevity, I'm gonna just stick to, you know, the original surname. All right, here goes. Um, well, if you haven't, you know, gone over part A, please check out my earlier videos, part 1 and part 2. Should click by the links on the side. And in this video and in the next one, so parts 3 and 4, obviously we'll focus on part B, using real-world examples, discuss the combined impact of both changes referring to the cost of production rising, as well as the income increasing, right? So both of these changes on the sales revenue earned from different car models. So obviously, in the introduction, define sales revenue, and that's different. Stress again, that is different from sales volume. So if you're not sure, please go back to parts 1 and 2, right? So sales revenue is a product of price and quantity. And the combined impact of these changes would depend on, of course, the price elasticity of demand, PED, and the income elasticity of demand, which is YED of the car models. But it also depends on the extent of shifts in demand and supply curves. So I'm going to give a brief overview. This is really just purely for illustration. And the elasticity values, of course, might really depend on the context, for example, the country in question, right? So Model A, Hyundai Grand i10 Neos, its PED has been established in the earlier videos to be less than 1 in magnitude. And therefore, there would be an increase in, total revenue due to the fall in supply, because obviously cost of production has risen, supply should be falling, right? It's YED, it's between 0 and 1, and that means it's a necessity, it's a subset of a normal good. And if so, the total revenue as a result of a rise in income would be also rising. And the combined impact, make sure you address, the question's specific requirements, which is the combined impact on total revenue. It would rise, right? In this case, it is unambiguous. For Model B, Mitsubishi Mirage, again, PED less than 1 in magnitude, and therefore total revenue will be rising, conducting isolated analysis here. All right, another isolated analysis, YED less than 0, meaning it's considered an inferior product. Total revenue would decrease, and the combined impact on total revenue would be indeterminate. Model C, Audi RS, PED greater than 1 in magnitude. We justified that also in the first 2 parts of the video, so please check them out if you're still not sure, right? Total revenue would decrease as a result, and it's a luxury good. That means YED is greater than 1, and total revenue as a result of a rise in income would increase. And combined impact, again, is indeterminate. And finally, Model D, the Dacia Sandero, which is really popular here in Germany, I think. PED is greater than 1 in magnitude, right? So total revenue would decrease because of the PED value being greater than 1. YED is less than 0, meaning it's also, like Mitsubishi Mirage, an inferior good. Total revenue would decrease. And in this case, the combined impact on total revenue would be also decreasing, right? So it is unambiguous in this case, like case A, right? For models B and C, candidates must justify which effect outweighs which. All right, so here goes model A. We are coming back to this example. In the previous videos, I also used this example. So the Hyundai Grand i10 Neos, right? So as mentioned, this was justified in part A. Now, for clarity, I will first conduct an isolated analysis of what happens when supply falls due to rising cost of production. Tip, we must still have a combined analysis later on. So don't forget that, right? I always tell my students RTFQ. Read the full question, RTFQ, right? All right, which is the combined impact. Right, so obviously, demand and supply diagram, make sure everything is labeled correctly, right? And I'm going to first conduct an isolated analysis, but first of all, the PED is smaller than 1 in magnitude, so the demand curve is relatively steep in its slope, right? Can see it's not gentle at all in terms of its slope, right? And the original total revenue is the red area plus the yellow area before supply falls, right? So I'm using two colors and you'll understand why later. Well, so the supply falls, price increases, right, to P1, and the quantity would fall to Q1, right? So quantity demanded decreases less than proportionately to the rise in price, right? So we're going to conduct area analysis, right? The gain in revenue due to the increase in price is area A, the dark blue region. There is also a loss in revenue due to the fall in quantity demanded, which is the region B. But there is also, obviously, C remains unchanged before and after. So the original total revenue is B plus C, right? The red and the yellow areas. But the final total revenue is A plus C. You would notice that C is apparent in both cases. And that means we have to compare the sizes of A and B. Well, clearly A is bigger in its area, has a larger area than B. And that means total revenue increases by area A minus B, right? And the final total revenue would be A plus C, as mentioned. And therefore, in this isolated analysis, total revenue falls. I'm sorry, total revenue increases, right? But that was just isolated analysis. Isolated meaning I was only looking at the fall in supply due to the rise in cost of production. We need to also factor in the rise in income, right? So in this case, you need to justify why this model or any models that you pick are considered. Well, in this case, I've chosen to justify that it's a necessity, right? So the YED value is between 0 and 1. Okay, so so this was justified earlier in part A. So when income rises, demand rises less than proportionately, right? So demand curve shifts to the right. Right. So the original total revenue, which was actually the red plus yellow, like that I showed earlier, right? Because of the fall in supply, that would be an intermediate total revenue. That was our isolated analysis. But now we are at the combined analysis portion, right? And as mentioned earlier, we showed that the yellow region, as you can see on the slide, is greater than the beige region, right? But the final total revenue is going to be the green portion, so the entire thing, which is actually P2 times Q0. Okay, so therefore, unambiguously, total revenue would increase overall because both are reinforcing each other, okay, to lead to a rise in total revenue. All right. So, yeah, so we're done with model A, and great. I think um a, a tip for my students is just practice drawing everything on one diagram. But if you find that really confusing initially at least, you should then conduct isolated analysis, but always come back to the combined impact. All right. So as a challenge, you might want to do the same for models B, C, and D. Right. And in the next video, which is part 4, I will continue with at least one of the remaining models as well as evaluation. So yeah, that's it for today. Goodbye.